you're just joining us, I just want to show you these pictures that have come through to Al Jazeera just in the last few minutes. The pictures you're seeing on the scene are of people on the Handala Freedom vessel. This is a boat that departed earlier this week from Italy. The aim of the boat is to break Israel's siege on the Gaza Strip. So the boat was intending to make its way to Gaza and drop aid, much-needed aid, to the people in Gaza. So what has happened, we believe, in the last few minutes, these are not live pictures, but they have come through in the last few minutes, is the boat has now been intercepted by the Israeli military. It's difficult to tell exactly what is happening, but you can see there members of the Israeli military there on the boat. These are the pictures that have come through to us just in the last few minutes before the live feed that we had from the boat dropped out. So it seems the boat has now been intercepted by the Israeli military. So this is the Handala Freedom vessel, which departed earlier this week, heading towards Gaza. I'm not sure how closely it has managed to reach Gaza. It's unclear how far off it is, but it has now been intercepted. It was hoping to deliver much-needed food and aid, including baby formula for those who are so desperately in need in Gaza. Now, there was a boat that was intercepted about a month ago, and it too was intercepted. It was carrying the activist Greta Thunberg. This was about a month ago. Let's go to our correspondent Hamdah Salhut, who is live in Amman. She has also been following the story and these pictures from Jordan's capital. That's because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and in the occupied West Bank. So, Hamdah, you're looking at these pictures too that have come through to us in the last few minutes. Just before the live feed shut down, we can see members of the Israeli army there who intercepted the boat. What more can you tell us about this vessel, the Handala Freedom vessel, and what it was trying to achieve, and how close it managed to make it to Gaza before it was indeed intercepted?
Well, Malene, the last sort of information we had from the boat before it lost contact and communication was that it was roughly a couple hundred miles from the coast of the Gaza Strip. They were trying to break Israel's blockade and deliver humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people. Now, this is the second flotilla of its kind. Previously, just around 40 days ago, there was a similar boat, the Madlin, that was also seized by the Israeli army. Now, within the last hour, Israeli media reported that the Israeli Navy was heading toward the ship, that there were two vessels that had circled and surrounded the Handala boat, and that there was an Israeli drone flying overhead before the Israeli Navy boarded the ship to intercept it. Now, what we learned from the last boat that was seized by Israeli forces was that it was redirected to the port of Ashdod, which is just north of the Gaza Strip. Everyone on board was then detained, followed by deported back to whatever country that they have citizenship to. But the point of this boat, the point that the activists are trying to make, was that even though they know that getting seized and intercepted by Israeli forces is a threat, they're trying to make a statement internationally, both to their governments of the countries they were coming from, and also to the Israeli government, that the world is not going to sit by and watch while the Israeli government starves the people of Gaza and sends them into a humanitarian disaster, that there are people who are willing to do things that are maybe outside of the box to try and break the siege. That's what these activists have been saying the entire time they've been sailing. That's what the activists on the previous flotilla had also been saying. But Israeli forces and the government had been quite clear that they are not going to allow any sort of vessel to reach the shores of Gaza for what they called security reasons. But it's worth mentioning that the aid that has been going into Gaza, or lack thereof, has not been enough to sustain the people for more than a year. Previously, in a ceasefire deal from January to March, we saw an influx of aid. However, it was still not enough given just how little had gone in throughout the war itself. So what these activists were hoping to do was break the siege and deliver baby formula, food, water, and other sort of supplies that the people of Gaza simply do not have.
And of course, Israel has been under huge international pressure because of what is happening in Gaza, the starvation, the children that the pictures of the children that we've been seeing in recent days across international newspapers. In the last few hours, the Israeli military has announced that it intends to begin airdropping more aid into Gaza. What more do we know about those plans?
You know, we have been reporting for more than 6 months about the starvation that has been going on inside of Gaza. But now countries around the world are unable to deny it any further, given the images, the influx of images that have been coming out of children who are starving, of adults who are fainting and simply falling dead because they are dying of starvation and hunger, dehydration and malnutrition and other illnesses associated with that. So the pressure that has come onto the Israeli government internationally has been quite large, and it has been actually since the end of the ceasefire in March. And any time there was more pressure on the Israelis, there was some sort of other war or security incident the Israelis were involved in that deflected from the humanitarian situation inside of Gaza. So now what the Israeli military has announced tonight is that they are taking what they call new humanitarian measures, and they are saying it comes after a directive from the political echelon in which the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a call with his security cabinet and gave the military these directives. So as part of it, there are going to be aid drops from the air. This is something the army just a couple of days ago said they would allow the resumption of from international entities, other countries like the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, who had previously dropped aid into Gaza. But for a long time, the Israeli army didn't allow it anymore. And international organizations say that while it's not really the best way to get humanitarian assistance, at this point, any type of aid going into Gaza would help the dire and catastrophic situation on the ground. So the army says that they, in fact, are going to be conducting their own airdrops. They're going to happen simply in the middle of the night in areas that are not accessible by civilians just yet. So it's not clear exactly where they're going to be dropped, but they say that they're going to be pallets of food, flour, some medical supplies, baby food, baby formula, and then they are going to be distributed by the United Nations. The army says, and confirmed by Israel's foreign ministry now, that they're also going to allow what they are calling humanitarian pauses. However, the military is stressing that combat operations are going to be resuming at any point in time. They're not saying that the humanitarian pauses are going to be for days, but what they are hinting at is that perhaps at the time of these airdrops, the Israeli military is not going to be dropping bombs at the same time. So it could be for a few minutes, it could be for a few hours. So they are saying that in certain parts of the Gaza Strip that are densely populated, there will be those pauses to allow for, one, the airdrops of the aid, and two, for the distribution of the aid. They're also saying that they're going to allow safe passage for the United Nations, to distribute this aid, to allow them to go with these trucks. Because, look, the UN has faced a lot of challenges, and Israel has pointed the finger at the UN, saying that they're the ones who are not distributing the humanitarian aid. But the UN has said that Israel has offered no assistance. They're not offering safe passage. They're not offering them simply enough aid that they need. And any sort of routes that the UN would need to take are, one, through dangerous combat zones, or two, through crowds of hundreds of thousands of starving Palestinians. So they need to ensure that this humanitarian assistance goes through a safe passage so that it can reach the people. And the military says that these directives were given to them by Benjamin Netanyahu. And it comes again after this immense pressure internationally from many different countries, especially countries that Israel considers allies, who have said that Israel's conduct in Gaza is simply unacceptable because of the amount of people who are starving to death.
Hamdah, just